Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, this is a week where we all think about what we have to be thankful for. And for me personally, think about you and getting to do the show with you, and specifically getting to do the bold prediction show. And Tony, I'm so thankful that we only have like a handful more of these left this season. How about you?
Hey, I'm right there with you. Happy Bold Predictions Day to everybody who celebrates. And I know nobody does. Certainly we do not. But we are here contractually obligated to do this. And now, Tom, I will say we do only have like a handful left. But after this season, we should probably right away do a bold predictions for 2025 without knowing anything about the Ohio State roster. That's always a solid show.
Yeah, those are ones where we tend to go back and look at how we did on the previous show. The ones that we do in February, those are like, well, 3 of these guys have transferred, and
this guy here is dead.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of going back and looking at previous shows, Tony, do you know who hit his 3-pointer last week? Tony, that would be me, Tony. Tony, Caleb Downs, Tony, scored a touchdown. I saw our buddy Tyler Shoemaker on Twitter basically begging one of us to have picked a Caleb Downs touchdown in bold predictions, and I informed him, yes, of course, Tyler. Of course one of us picked that. Very boldly picked it, I might add.
Anyway, who picked it? We don't need to go into that. No, Tom, that was about the only thing that anybody got right was your Caleb Downs touchdown. And if anybody remembers the discussion last week, and I know we do, you said Caleb Downs touchdown, and I tried to get a punt return stricken from the record, and you steadfastly said, no, I needed to be less bold. So I need the punt return touchdown in there, the inevitable punt return touchdown. I need it. And I was like, you know what? It's like the last flipping bold prediction of the show. Like let's just do it. We were already like 18 minutes into the show. I didn't want to go 20. Like, let's just do it. And so there you go. Caleb Downs a touchdown. And now we begin this week, Tom. Michigan, another difficult bold prediction show, but I want to start with a little preamble about Caleb Downs. Because I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've boldly predicted him to have an interception, and he's not done it. So you know what? I'm done with that guy. I don't have anything to do with him. I just be gone. Like, you're not going to come up with an interception when I want you to, when I need you to. When you're not there for me, I'm not going to be there for you this week. So Godspeed to you.
Tony, can I go first?
Sure.
Tony, I didn't have this on my list, but I'm going to predict a Caleb Downs interception just because this feels like this might be the inverse of the 220 thing where I pick it and I pick it and I pick it. And it's like, it's going to happen. And it never happens. And then you pick it once and it happens. It feels like this might be my version of that. So Tony, Caleb Downs has an interception. And Tony, really, it hasn't happened yet in the history of college football that he's had an interception for Ohio State. So I guess my only question is, would it be worth 2 points or 1?
Serenity now. Honestly, the way it's gone for me, it should be 2, but since we're not going to start off with 2s. I will allow you to have this 4-1 Caleb Downs interception. And if it happens, it will be one of the worst moments in show history. And I may never recover from it, frankly. So Caleb Downs, I just hope, Tom, the one pointer that has now been stricken from the record happens like repeatedly in this game. And after we're done, go ahead and let us know what one that you decided to scrap so that we can all enjoy your tomfoolery on that one.
I don't want to say that Caleb Downs having an interception in this game would be the funniest thing to ever happen in the history of the universe, but it might be the funniest thing to happen in the history of Ohio State football. The 1 point would be great, but your mentions on Twitter, if and when that happens, are really, Tony,
yeah,
that's what it's all about.
That is
the laughter of children and your mentions after a Caleb Downs interception. Those are the 2 things that bring me the greatest joy in the world.
I'm just trying to bring joy to the world. I keep saying it. So my first 1-pointer is something that has not happened all year long. Well, again, it happens quite a bit, but not in this way.
Boy, you're really teeing this one up for excellence. Keep going. Keep talking.
A Michigan wide receiver has a season-long reception for the Michigan wide receivers. So basically, the longest reception of the season for a Michigan wide receiver will happen in this game.
What is the season long for Michigan wide receivers in terms of receptions? Because it feels like the answer is probably something like 12.
31 yards.
31 yards. Well, okay. So here's what I have. And I think we can probably riverside these two because they're not the same, but they're related. Michigan will have a pass of 30 yards or longer. They have only had 4 all season long, which ties for dead last in FBS with Minnesota nationally. Mm-hmm. Ohio State is second nationally, only allowing 6 passes of 30 yards or longer all year long. That is one behind Washington for the fewest 30-yard passes. So feels like these two could probably peacefully coexist because you have the possibility of a running back or you have the possibility of, someone, you're getting 31 or whatever. So what do you think?
Well, what even was your bold prediction? You just gave me some numbers.
The Michigan has a reception of Michigan has a completed pass of longer than 30 yards.
Oh, okay. They've done it 4 times though.
They have, yes, and Ohio State has not allowed. So I'll tell you what. How about we make it 34 yards, and then you have to allow it because of the rules. How about that? And then you have the possibility, Tony. I can see you thinking, let me just throw this out there. Then you have the possibility of like a 32 or a 33 yarder where you get yours and I don't get mine, and you can really rub it in my face.
No. See, here's the thing. Like you're opening this up to everybody for a 34-yard reception. I am limiting this to just wide receivers for a 32-yard reception. Even if I drop it down to 30 yards, just receivers, I don't feel like that these are commensurate bold predictions. I feel like mine obviously is more bold. So I would feel like I need to limit yours somehow. And I can't even say it can't be Colston Loveland because he's banged up. Who knows if he's even going to play. I would say, how about this, Tom? We'll go with the 34, but there also has to be a 17 in there. Like somebody has to have a 17-yard reception as well.
I'm just going to look up what their long in terms of the entire season is. So the long in terms of the entire season in terms of receiving yardage is 36. So yeah. I will just say that they will have a 37-yarder, and then you can't possibly argue because it's the exact same thing that you're saying. Just looping
Fair
in
enough.
Okay.
I don't care for it because I've already said all week long that Ohio State or Michigan has not had a 40-yard reception this season, and they will definitely have one. So, and I believe a few days ago, you're like, okay, good. Now that can't be a bold prediction. And then boom, here you are saying 37 is bold, but I guess it's not 40, like you said. You got me there, Tom. So, all right, Michigan has a 37-yard reception.
Tony, I got to tell you, in this household, we operate just like the College Football Playoff Committee. We are not at all beholden to precedent or anything we said in previous weeks.
Yes, nothing that we say could be held against us. All right, so there you go. That's you. You got 2 1-pointers. Tom, let me give you my next 1-pointer. And this will require Will Howard to just continue to stay with what is working. But I say for the second time this season, Carnell Tate will have a 100-yard game. And I didn't even remember that he had a 100-yard game, but it came against Nebraska. He had a 68-yard drive, I think, last week. The most yards he's had receiving outside of that 100-yard game is I don't think he's had a 70-yard game this season. So I feel like there's not a lot that you can argue with on this one, Tom, but please proceed.
That's fine. I think that's okay. I have questions about how they'll be dividing the passing up. Certainly there are going to be opportunities because I don't think you're going to get Michigan's best corner on Carnell Tate. That's probably going to be, your outside guy is going to be on Jeremiah Smith, and have Makari Page probably a lot on Emeka Ibuka. So you're going to get, Hall or someone like that on Carnell Tate, and I can certainly see it happening. But the fact that it's only happened once, and the fact that he hasn't been, in the 90s a few times where he's just barely missed it, I'm going to be, in the spirit of the holiday season and generosity for those lesser than us, I will allow that to be a thing for you.
Magnanimous, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As always. How about this one, Tony? Michigan scores more points on the first drive of the game and first drive of the second half than they do in the rest of the game combined. So you figure they're going to have 8 drives, 9 drives, something like that. I'm just going to take the first one of the game, the first one of the third quarter, those 2 drives, points together, more than the rest of the game combined. And of course, the rest of the game would also include defensive scores, special team scores, all that. Yeah,
I like that one. I mean, the funny thing is, like, those are the 2 where you would expect them to score, but still, it's 2 of how many 9 possessions, maybe 10 if Ohio State scores quickly on something, maybe 10 or 11 if Michigan goes 3 and out on some. But I like that one. We've never had this one before, I don't think. And so, while everybody knows Ohio State is giving up 9.2 points on the first drive of every game so far this season, I don't know how, but it's happened. So if Ohio State can just give up that 9.2 and not give up anything on the second half, and then Michigan somehow scores 10 points the rest of the game, then Tom will fail on this one. Somehow fail. If all of these things can happen to make Tom fail on this bold prediction, I don't know that that's how it should work. If all of these things can just fall into place for Tom to not get this bold prediction. But I do like it. I could frankly see, would anybody be shocked by Michigan scoring on the first drive and then not scoring again the rest of the game? No. But no. Oh, really, Tom?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked by it. I just, statistically, it's unlikely, but I wouldn't be shocked by it. Right. And, listen, if Ohio State comes out and gets a 3 and out to start the game and everyone's like, wow, what caused the defense to play so much better in this game at the start of the game? Was it excellent play by the players? Was it fantastic scheme by Jim Knowles? No. Let me show you this clip from the Bold Prediction Show where some guy predicted not this to happen. And did he cause the universe to cause it to happen? Mm-hmm. I don't know. You can't say it didn't. You can't prove that it didn't.
That's right. You cannot. So, Tom, we will allow that one. Michigan scores more points in the first drive of the game, their first drive of the game, and their first drive of the second half than the rest of the game combined. Now everybody's hoping for overtimes. Good job, Tom. Loser.
Tony, I don't think anyone's hoping for overtime. So I'm almost positive that no one's hoping for overtime.
I know at least one. Anyway, here's my third one-pointer, Tom, and we'll see what you think about it. I am predicting, for the first time in I don't know how long, 0 penalties for Davis and Igbinosun.
So,
called or accepted?
I really would love to know how many times that's happened this year, because it feels like that's one of those things that you have the recency bias going in your mind, and it's like, well, he gets called for 3 penalties every game, and he doesn't get called for 3 penalties every game.
I believe during that game, after maybe his first, they said came into the game leading the nation with 10 defensive penalties. So that would put him at 13, which would put him, now again, it's not happening every game, but on average.
I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. He's had 13 penalties in 11 games.
Accepted.
3 of them just came in 1 game. So he's averaging about 1 a game, and you would like it to be with a team who has, what's a polite way to say piss poor, Tony? Not great wide receiver play. You would like an average of 1 to become 0, and that to be deemed bold. That is, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the full situation before I render a judgment here. Because I'm sure the audience has already rendered their judgment, but...
Well, I did this one for the audience because I knew they would appreciate this one, and I knew you would push back. So I was just saying, hey, let's see if Tom wants to have fun and play the game. But no, Tom doesn't. He hates the holidays. Great job, Tom.
I'm perfectly fine with like the Carnell Tate one you did earlier. It's like, oh, this has happened once this year.
All right.
if you can't tell me how many games he hasn't had a penalty, and the average is like 1 per game, and I know there's been multiple games with multiple penalties, it feels like there's probably been like 4 or 5 where he hasn't had a penalty this year.
Okay. All right.
Which feels not particularly bold.
All right. Okay. Then I will sideline this one because, again, I did this one to see if people wanted to have fun.
How about we put a modification on that? And he also has 2 pass breakups or 2 pass breakups and an interception or something like that.
Okay. No penalties.
Some combination of pass breakups and interceptions totaling 2 or something along those lines. I'm okay with it with some kind of a modification. This is not one that necessarily lends itself to between the 17 and 34 yard line or something like that.
Again, I just thought we were having fun here. So the amendment that you suggested was going to be the one that I had, which was, okay, we'll throw on 2 pass breakups, 2 pass defended, and that includes interceptions. So yeah, we'll do 2 breakups and no penalties from Davis and Igbinosun, and we agree, finger off the checker.
I do like the fact that you just straight out said, like, well, I knew this wasn't going to be bold enough, so I had a counter offer waiting because your objection to my initial extremely unbold thing was extraordinarily justified. And we all heard you use the phrase extraordinarily justified. So I just want to make sure you heard that, because we all heard it. Go back and listen to the show later. I promise you'll hear it.
Yeah, you just said it 16 times, so you're going to hear it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tom, go ahead.
All right, let's see. So we've got 3 of my 1-pointers already. I'm trying to decide which one of these would make you maddest. Tony, how about Donovan Edwards throws a touchdown pass?
Yeah, I think he's thrown 2 in his career. What's his career total now? I'm not saying it's not going to be.
I know you're not, because it's exceptionally bold. He has thrown 1 pass this season. It went for a touchdown.
Okay,
gonna see if pull up his
that's fine. Well, I mean, we're not gonna. We know, and this is another one, Tom, that we've discussed over the many shows earlier this week and last week, and we talked about how somebody other than Davis Warren is going to throw a pass and it's guaranteed. You're like, good. I'm glad you're not going to try to pass that off in bold predictions. But you have added the touchdown portion to this, and you have put a name to the person. So even though, Tom, let me ask you this: how many of his passes have gone for touchdowns? Is it all of them?
In his career, he has thrown 4 passes. All 4 of them have been completed. Only 2, though, for touchdowns, Tony, and one of them was in 2021. So that's, basically prehistoric. So, you're thinking like, oh, he's Michael Wiley. No, Michael Wiley only threw touchdown passes. Donovan Edwards, 1 per season. He has thrown exactly 1 pass per season, Tony. And he's already used his for this year. So it feels like this might be worth 3 points, because he's literally never in the history of college football thrown a second pass in a season, let alone a second touchdown pass. So,
He makes some terrible points, Tom.
I think this should be worth 1,865 points, because not since this tragic assassination of Abraham Lincoln, Tony.
All right. Donovan Edwards throws, anytime you're talking about this, somebody other than the starting quarterback throwing a touchdown pass, I feel like that is going to be allowed. Unless it would be Michael Wiley, then you're like, no, it's got to be from the 34-yard line or the 17-yard line. Michael Wiley was the Chris Carter of running backs who throw touchdown passes, basically. So, all right, Tom, this is one that I went with last week and it didn't happen, but I feel like we're due. And that is Will Howard accounts for 4 touchdowns. And Michigan does not normally give up 4 touchdowns in a game. And so I feel like Will Howard getting 4 of those, accounting for 4 of those, is pretty bold. I think, Tom, what do you think of the chances are that he rushes for a touchdown? I feel like it's kind of high.
Yeah, I feel like, it feels like he's done that about as often as not this season. I don't have the stats in front of me, but
I think he's got 7 touchdown rushes this year.
Yeah, so a little more often than not. So you figure probably 1, and then
can I give you some
passing?
Additional stats?
How many times has he done 4 touchdowns in a game in Big Ten play?
Let me see here. In Big Ten play, we'll just say he's thrown. I'm looking at his passing stats. He's thrown 3 touchdowns. He threw 4 touchdowns against Iowa. He threw 3 against Nebraska and 3 against Purdue. And if you match those up to his rushing stats, he did not, he rushed for a touchdown against Iowa. So he had 5 touchdowns in that game. He had a rushing touchdown against Purdue. So he had 4 in that one. Here's what I'm saying, is why I'm going with 4.
Was it just twice that he's done it in Big Ten play? Was that the answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I think that's fine with this caveat.
Right.
I'm going to give you my 3-pointer right now, and then I'm going to put a little caveat on yours.
Can I stop you? Can I stop you and just, can I throw this in? CJ Stroud, in his 2 games against Michigan, accounted for 4 touchdowns.
Has anything changed, Tony, in terms of Michigan's, advanced preparation since those games? I don't know. No. I think you're more concerned than you should be. I'm going to tell you what my 3-pointer is here. Mm-hmm. Will Howard has a touchdown reception. My caveat for you is a Will Howard touchdown reception does not count towards your 4 touchdowns. Because again, Tony, Will Howard has the opportunity to do the funniest possible thing, which is get me 3 points and cost you 1 point by catching a touchdown. And Tony, you don't want to deny the audience that. And Tony, how many touchdowns has he caught all year? None. How many touchdowns has he caught in his career? Probably none. I don't know. I didn't go back and look. 1? Okay. When was the last time an Ohio State quarterback had a touchdown reception? I couldn't think of a good way to look that up. And the last one I could think of was Terrell Pryor in the Fiesta Bowl against Texas in 2009. I couldn't think of one since then. So, Tony, I mean, number 1, hasn't happened presumably since 2009 when boom, no take knee. And obviously this is a very different time than that because we saw Travion Henderson take knee last week. So obviously a very different time. And you have the opportunity for Will Howard to do the funniest possible thing.
Here's what I'm going to say to the people. Tom, we're going to allow this. I'm doing it for the people. I do this for the enjoyment of the show and the people, whereas Tom would not allow me to have the no penalties from IGB because he can't have fun. And I can have fun. So this would be so amazing and devastating all at the same time. So amazing is basically, you can't say no to that. So we will allow it.
Devastating is definitely the way to go there.
Devastating. Yeah, I was also going to say the last 3 games against Michigan, the Ohio State quarterbacks have accounted for 2 touchdowns each game. I went with double that. But as you said, things may have changed with that. So
I'm fine with 4. I'm fine with accounting for 4 touchdowns. I really just want to take this is just a lottery ticket. I just want the lottery ticket for the possibility of a 4-point swing. Like they're down in the red zone late in the game. He has 3 touchdowns. You're thinking he's going to throw this and they're going to punch it in and I'm going to get my 4 points. Or my 1 point, and I'm going to be so excited, and I already know what dance I'm going to do in front of Tom on the sideline to celebrate this. And then he catches a touchdown, and then Tony, do you know what kind of dance I'm going to do? Nothing. I'm going to hand the ball to the referee and go back. Because Tony, they tell you to act like you've been there before. And Tony, we know I've been there many a time.
All right, Tom, I will agree to all of this, except if the touchdown comes from the 17 or 34-yard line, it does not count.
Tony, I'm powerless to stop you. That
it counts for me.
Which now sets up the possibility of the incredible double reverse. Me taunting you and you pointing to the scoreboard. And Tony, there has never been a higher stakes Ohio State Michigan game this weekend. I can say that with no hesitation whatsoever.
Not even a little, but, and really, this isn't even that convoluted. This all follows canon. This is easy to follow along. You've had worse. All right. So I like that one. Here's my final 1-point bold prediction. Michigan will have, at least 1 quarter of 0 or negative offensive yards.
I feel like I've had several times this year when I've picked teams to have multiple. Now, was that for 3 points or multiple points? I don't remember.
I can scroll through here.
I know for, I think one of the Akron game or something, I think I picked them to have 2 quarters. And
Oh, is this an Akron game?
have you watched Michigan's offense this year? I mean, I can pull up the hang on, let me pull up the FEI offensive stats, and we'll see where Akron and Michigan rank.
No, don't do that. How's it going for you? I can bring up your Akron bold predictions if you're interested.
I think it might have been Akron.
Negative yardage for Akron in 1 quarter, barring a 15-yard snap. That was your 1-pointer.
Okay. All right. Then in that case, then that's okay. I was remembering that being a 2-quarter thing. So yeah, okay. That's fine. I just want to make sure we're having the correct correct context around all of these things. Tony, I'm not unreasonable, no matter what you may lyingly say to the audience to try to get them to turn against me, which is...
I don't have to try to turn them against you. They are already
despicable.
They are already
Tony,
turned.
It's probably not a strong enough word, but
All right.
So that now was the Igbenogson one. Did you end up taking that with the 2? You did with the 2.
Yeah,
okay.
with the 2.
I thought you did. Okay. All right. So I have one more 1-pointer. Oh, Tony, I like so many of my 1-pointers. I had multiple options here, and I like them all. How about this one? Ohio State defensive end Jack Sawyer records at least 1.5 sacks. Or you can say more than 1 sack. However you'd like to frame that.
However we would like to frame that. Tom, why did you come up with that number? How did you come up with that number?
Because if you pick him to have a sack, he's been good enough recently that he's, 1 sack is probably not sufficient. So, 1.5 sacks, I can pull up his career game.
He did that last week, by the way. 1.5 sacks.
Sure. How
many he did it against Iowa. So he's done it twice in Big Ten play. He did it against Purdue last year. He did it, he had 3 sacks against Missouri last year. So that's 4 games. He did it against Indiana as a sophomore. So that's 5 games. So 5 times in his career, he's had at least 1.5 sacks against FBS, Power 5, Power 4 opponents. And I'm not opposed to this entirely, but it did just happen last week. If it hadn't, then, I would be like, hey, what? Great bold prediction, Tom. I've never seen you this bold. But just, if you look at last week's, if you open up a newspaper and look at last week's box score, right there, boom, right in your face, just bam, 1.5 sacks for Jack Sawyer.
I'll tell you what, Tony, I'm going to take this. I had another one that I liked, and I was like, well, I'm kind of disappointed I don't get to use it.
Right.
I am going to get to use it. And here's one, Tony, that has not happened literally in the entire history of college football. So it's only 1 point, which seems extraordinarily generous of me.
Well, your 3-pointer's already done.
Cody Simon and Sonny Styles combined for 20 tackles. 20 tackles for Cody Simon and Sonny Styles. Cody Simon has never had more than 10 tackles in a game. Sonny Styles has never had 10 tackles in a game. So they can never have combined for 20. So, Tony, in this game, they combined for 20 tackles.
They combined for 20 tackles. Interesting. Do you know how many tackles they had last week combined?
I knew it wasn't 20 because they've never done 20 before.
Are you basing this just because they have not had more than 10 in the same game? Is that what you said?
No, they have never had. Cody Simon has never had more than 10, and Sonny Styles has never had more than 9. So I don't know if they've even ever combined for 19 or in a game. I know they've never combined for 20 in a game because Sonny Styles has never had 10 and Cody Simon's never had 11.
They combined for 18 last week, Tom. So you've made it. You've made it over, I guess, would be the number there. So I don't hate this one. Cody Simon and Sonny Styles combined for 20 tackles. You cannot include tackles for loss. No, I'm just kidding.
No one. Tony, allow me to assure you, no one said that.
All right.
Not even you. You're like, I said that out loud. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. All right. We will allow that one. That's a good one. 20 tackles for the Ohio State starting linebackers. And any tackle from Arvell Reese negates one. Here's one for you, Tom. Let me see. Michigan has allowed this just once. The person I am predicting to do this has not done it yet this season, I believe. Travion Henderson will have a rush of at least 60 yards in this game.
6-0?
6-0.
6-0. Okay.
He has none this year. They gave up, I think Woody Marks maybe had one against Michigan. Maybe it was Woody Marks from USC. So 60 yards. He is due. The problem with Travion Henderson, a lot of his rushes, they don't get past the 50-yard mark. I think this one, it will happen.
Yeah, I have no grounds to object.
Wow. Okay, Pat, perfect.
All right, so
your last one.
So how about this? This is I think I have all of my 1-pointers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Just
so
need your 2.
My last one is I just have a 2-pointer left, right?
Yep.
Okay. So Tony, in 1989, the NCAA passed a rule barring kickers from using tees on place kicks. Since that happened, the longest field goal kicked in an Ohio State football game, home or away, is 55 yards. Tony, I'm going to predict that record gets broken on Saturday, a field goal of longer than 55 yards. Tony, it has never happened since the rule was changed in 1989, and only once in the history of college football ever in Ohio State history has anyone done that. That was Morton Anderson in 1981 with Michigan State. But that was before they changed the rule, and you could use a tee back then, so it was easier to do it.
So you're saying longer than 55 yards made in Ohio Stadium?
Yes. The field goal
you said
made by a kicker, a field goal made by a kicker from either team longer than 55 yards.
Now, people are listening to this, and they're going, oh, wow, that's very bold. And then you and I, having watched Michigan every single week and talked about them every week, know that Dominic Zavada, Michigan's kicker, has 2 56-yarders this year. So, while I agree, something that has never happened in this particular place is somewhat bold, you have to compare that and contrast that with something that has already happened twice this year for Michigan, because this one feels like there's 2 points here, Tom. One, we know Dominic Zavada, if he gets a shot, he's probably going to nail it. But also, are you settling for long field goals like that in this game? Maybe initially.
Sounds like you're coming around on the boldness of this is what it sounds like to me.
Well,
and Tony, I will remind you, never in the history of Ohio Stadium since that rule was changed. Tony, do you know how old I was in 1981 when Morton Anderson kicked that? 2, 17. Tony. That's the only time it's ever happened longer than that. And of course, that's before the rule was changed. So it's like you can't count that. That's ridiculous. That doesn't matter.
So and the other thing, I just want people to understand, Dominic Zavada has made kicks of 56 twice, a 53-yarder, and a 55-yarder. He has missed a 28-yarder. So you're asking him to double that, and then boom, nails it. 56-yard kick. It's so rare, but
if it would make you feel better, I will make it 57, and then it's something that's literally never happened in Dominic Zavada's career, and also literally never happened inside Ohio Stadium since they changed the rule, or in any Ohio State game.
I like it. 57-yard field goal. Again,
it was a lot of bickering for 1 yard.
Yeah, well, it's an important yard. This dude has an awesome leg, so 57-yard field goal. Ohio State should invest in the portal at kicker at some point. I would say maybe 2 years ago. Let's see. My final bold prediction, my 3-pointer, something that has not happened at all this year, I am predicting to happen 3 times. Once for each point. And that is, Tom, So that you're not going to just say,
I was thinking, did I black out for a minute? Did I miss like a sentence or two? Because it feels like I have incomplete information that I'm trying to work with here.
Sorry, I was waiting for the applause and the sheer emotion.
And yet none was forthcoming. Curious that.
Michigan will give up 3 50-yard pass plays in this game. Ohio State has, I believe, 7 on the season. I am saying 3 alone in this game. Michigan has not given up any on the year. I know you're looking for a way to bicker, but I don't see how you can, Tom.
Well, I think, how about this? Since we were getting, a little finicky about a yard here or there, or 56 and 57, Tony, 2 of them have to be 57 yards or longer.
I will also say Ohio State only has 1 50-yard pass play in November this year. All of the games they played in November. They have 2 in October, and they had 4 in September. So the bulk of this happened in non-conference play. That's why. How about this, Tom? I'll go this way. At least a 51, at least a 52, at least a 53. No 50-yarders allowed.
What was your 2-pointer again? This feels a lot like a 2-pointer to me. Like it's good. I like it. I just don't love it for 3 points. What's your 2-pointer again?
The 2-pointer is Travion Henderson has a 60-yard run.
I don't like that for 3 points either.
How about this, Tom? Let's do it this way. So at least 3 50-yard pass plays for Ohio State. However, if we're employing the laws of 17 and 34, no 51-yard plays allowed, no 68-yard plays allowed, and also, Tom, no 48-yard plays, or 50, no, just 51, right? 17 and 34. Yeah, no 51 and no 68s. Shouldn't that make you happy?
No 51s and no 68s. So the 51-yard, so if they have a 57-yarder, a 52-yarder, and a 51-yarder, you don't get it because the 51-yarder doesn't count.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure. 51 and 68.
Those are poison. We call those poison.
That does bring, again, the opportunity for you to get loopholed here really right. And this feels a little unfair because how much I love to have you lose on a technicality. That's my absolute. Winning is great. Having you lose on a technicality is so much better. It's the best thing. It's the greatest thing in the world. And while I feel like this is, how about one has to be 57, but 51s and 68s don't count. 3 of them, one of them has to be at least 57. And okay, there we go.
Because if it's all just 50 to 56 or whatever,
it feels pretty unlikely that they're going to have 3 of them of 50 or more and not have one of them be longer than 57.
All right, I'll give that to you, Tom.
I just love to work one more technicality in there.
Believe me, I know. Who are you telling?
All right, so we're good, and now we just need to do our freebies. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, well, Tony, I have great news for you. Because all you need to do to get 1 point on Saturday is to watch Donovan Edwards have at least 1 run of less than 10 yards. Tony, I think that might just happen.
You know what? I feel pretty good about that. So, but let's not push it. Let's not talk about it too much. Donovan Edwards has a rush of less than 10 yards. Okay, I will take that. I will accept that. Tom, my free bold prediction to you is that Caleb Downs, famous Ohio State safety who can't intercept a pass for the Buckeyes, has a tackle within 13 yards of the line of scrimmage. Could it happen? Maybe. Who knows?
Can we make it 17 yards?
Yes.
Just to, I mean.
Yeah. That's my fault. That's
out
my
of respect
fault.
For the audience.
Yes. Certainly not out of respect for you, for the audience and the show. So there you go. All done. And it only took 40 minutes. Look at us.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. 40 minutes of your life you're never getting back. Unless you're listening to the podcast on 1.5 speed, in which case it's like 25 or so minutes that you're never getting back.
There you go. I listen to it on 3 times speed. And You still can't get that time back. Anyway, go ahead and hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Why wouldn't you? And of course, hit the bell to be notified. We are dropping shows all over the place this week, as you guys are finding out. So please tune in there. And of course, check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can remember $4.99 for your first month right now. Promises to be a very, very interesting month. So check us out there. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you guys later.